Diksha. I'm 21 years old. I did my BBA honors from Christ University, and I got a 93.8 in my XAT exam. I converted XLRI Delhi and XLRI HR, and now I'm pursuing my PGDM and XLRI HR. So essentially, if I had to talk about my prep, I started preparing when I was in my second year in the beginning. So my preparation strategy was for the first 1 year, I had to go for offline classes. So my college was extremely hectic. You know, you would get over at like 3:30 or 4 o'clock. From there, I would have to make like a 45-minute travel to at the end of a coaching center, sit there for 2 hours. And then after that, by like 8:30 or 9 o'clock, you know, go back home. And then finally, after reaching home, with that, the college work next day. My college starts at 8, used to start at 8:30 in the morning, and they were very strict about it. You can't bunk 85% attendance and all of that. So despite having a really hectic schedule, I think I was burnt out, like for that 1 year that I had to constantly go back and forth and do it. But despite that, I knew that, you know, I had to remain consistent. So in my first year of prep, I always made sure that I was up to date with what was happening in class. Like say if today percentage has been taught in class, then I would go back home and I would solve the material. And that's it. I wouldn't ask myself to do anything more, but I would never expect myself to do anything lesser. And after that, when the pandemic hit and then we shifted to an online mode of education, I think that really eased things out for me, because I could sit at home. I could cut out on that, you know, travel time. And now, despite being in my final year, I could devote time to my prep. Okay. So another thing that I want to touch upon is the mocks. So in my mocks, I never used to score good marks. Like I think I barely used to cross like 50 marks in the CAT mocks, and that's really low, like for any of you who've given mocks, right? So I always wonder that, is this my true potential? Like after preparing for a year and a half, why am I still getting like such a low score in my mock? And I think I battled with that kind of feeling, that kind of imposter syndrome for quite a while, and I started questioning my ability and my prep. I was like, is this really amounting to anything or not? And what I would like to say in hindsight is that none of you should get emotionally attached to your mock scores. Your mocks are indeed a reflection of how you've been preparing, but they don't show your true potential. Because when you're sitting to give a mock, you have 1,000 things on your head. You're thinking, you're putting the pressure of the time, you're putting the pressure of like the years and the exams that are coming ahead, and God knows what are the kinds of psychological barriers you're sitting to write when you give your mock. So the only thing that you should be taking away from your mock, in my opinion, is that you need to sit down after the paper, go through all the questions that you found hard, go through all the sections that, you know, you couldn't battle, and like maybe even topics that you haven't heard of. Something that all the aspirants that I've interacted with so far have asked me is that should I be fully prepared? You know, should I cover my syllabus fully before sitting to give a mock? You know, I haven't finished my syllabus, maybe I shouldn't give a mock. And I tell them, no, that's not the point of a mock. The point of a mock is for you to understand the environment of the exam, to understand your psychological state, and to realize what are the new kinds of concepts that are there. So don't, you know, limit yourself because your portions are not complete, and don't get tied up in constantly, you know, pursuing revising the concepts. Because a lot of people don't tell me that, you know, I spend 80% of my time doing concepts and then I'll give a mock here and there, and sometimes, you know, I don't get time for practice. And I say, no, that's not how you do it. You have to give about 10 to 20% max of your time to concept revision, learning, and you have to spend 80% of your time in solving questions. And I think I very shamelessly advertise Endeavor wherever I go, because I really truly enjoyed my experience over here, because I think the kind of material that they provide is extremely wholesome. Like they're not just covering the academic topics, they also have support for the interview process, the GD process, and, you know, any other kinds of supporting things that you might need. When we shifted online, I think Endeavor was one of the few coaching centers. Like I'm in touch with other people at other places as well, and it was one of the few places that reached out to us and, you know, said that, we'll deliver your books to your house. Let's make sure that your CAT prep doesn't stop in the middle. So that was something that I truly enjoyed about this place. And I would say to anyone and everyone that if you have Endeavor material, solve that. If you've solved it 100% at least 2-3 times, then nothing can stop you from getting a good percentile. And my percentile wasn't that good, but your story could be much better than mine. So another thing that I'd like to touch upon is how, despite getting a 93.8, I converted XLRI in my first attempt. So the thing about, the procedure this year was that there was no GD because it was completely online, which meant that for me it was do or die. Like in the PI, either I ace it and I kill it and I get that seat, or I royally mess up and that's it. I have to repeat an entire year. So when I found out that I'd been shortlisted for the interview procedure, I knew that I wanted to give it my all. Now there are a lot of, you might think that, oh, what if the internet connection goes bad? What if that day I'm in a bad mood? What if someone picks a fight with me that day? And you would like to imagine all these scenarios, but what you need to understand is that what is under control is always under your control, and what is not in your control will never be in your control. So you can always plan out how you will go about your interview strategy. How much time do you want to devote to current affairs? How much time do you want to devote to your personality development and understanding your own profile well? I think my strongest suit, which got me throughout the interview, was the fact that I had a lot of confidence in my background. Despite being a fresher, I knew that I had participated in several committees and I had headed a couple of them, and I had done all kinds of extracurriculars during my time, and that is something that I leveraged in my interview. I said, hey, don't think any less of me just because I don't have work experience and just because I'm young, because I have tried to always stay out of my comfort zone and make sure that I'm touching on these aspects to I guess supplement my personality so that I'm ready to be accepted at this university. And once you present yourself in a way like that, nobody can say no to you. So after I converted, I think the other side was something I always like while I was preparing at Endeavour. Something that all the mentors always told me was that, oh, B school is going to be so hectic. Yeah, it's going to be extremely long. And I used to listen to it, but I never understood what they were saying. I was like, yeah, okay, it'll be hectic, it'll be long, something, let's see. And I joined XLRI 2 weeks ago. It's been only 2 weeks. And I slept today morning at 12 noon. I slept at noon and I was awake the entire day yesterday. So you can say I've been awake for the last 36 hours or so with 5 hours of sleep. And it's not because, it's like they're trying to kill us or something and they're trying to ruin our lives. It's because there are so many things that are happening in college, even though it's only been 2 weeks. And, despite it being online, there hasn't been any limitation yet. We've been having events, we've been getting introduced to committees, and it's easily one of the most even though it's been only 2 weeks, I can say that it's been the most happening 2 weeks in the last 2 years of my life. And going through these 2 weeks is I feel like I've been challenged so much in just such a short span of time that I've changed in the last 1 month from who I used to be in the last 1 year. So on the other side, guys, for what you're truly fighting for is a really, really good opportunity. Please keep this in mind, because sometimes it's easy to forget. You might all you will see is the exam, all you'll see is the interview and the college name, and it's harder for you to imagine what truly lies after that. So every time you're feeling demotivated, and if this resonated with you, tell yourself the story that on the other side is something that's truly going to challenge you and change who you are and push you out of your comfort zone and transform you completely. My batchmates, right, at XLRI, I am one of the youngest people there. I would say that I'm 21. The average age of my batch is 24, 25, and most of them have up to 3 years, 4 years, 5 years of working. So we have someone who 5 years is the maximum over here. For people beyond 5 years, there's a separate course altogether. It's called GMP. So there are people from all kinds of backgrounds. There are ex-UPSC aspirants. There are people who are lawyers, people who worked with the government in the income tax department. And I cannot even pinpoint how many diverse kinds of profiles there are. The first time that in my first week over here, I'm talking like I've been here for a very long time, but in my first week over here, I truly felt out of place. I was like, where have I come? Everyone is so cool, why did they choose me? That was the kind of feeling when I was battling. But then I realized that the point of reaching B school is for you to push yourself, okay? And if your peers are better than you, then that is a learning opportunity for you, and not an opportunity for you to degrade yourself and feel like, oh no, I don't deserve this, I don't belong here. So irrespective of what background you guys are coming from, if you guys are doctors or you're doing arts, or if you're in commerce or engineering, don't worry about whether you're truly up to the mark, or things like your specialization. That was also something that someone asked, because once you've made it here, trust me, the experience will transform you as long as you have a learning mindset. Okay, don't get pushed back, and don't even during your prep, actually your peers might be performing better than you, and like someone might be scoring like the top 1% at endeavor, like in your box and all that. Don't get thrown off by any of that. Remember that the way that you learn is very different from the way other people are going to learn. Like my prep strategy was that every day I would devote I would get up in the morning, I would do verbal for like an hour or so. I would solve 2-3 RCs, and then I would do grammar for 45 minutes to 1 hour, and then I would solve quant for 2 hours, and then DI for 2 hours, and then that was it. I wouldn't do anything else beyond the day, because for me it was small packets of learning every single day which was working for me. I knew that if I even tried to sit beyond 10 hours for one day, I would get burnt out, and then I would not study for the next coming week. Now this is something that is true to me and might not be true to you. Maybe you prefer studying 10 hours a day, and I'm not going to tell you that that's wrong, because it's not. So each of you need to learn to trust the way that you're learning and capitalize on it, and capitalize on everything that's around you to build your profile and truly see what's there on the other side of this. So I would only like to talk about two things. One is Endeavor material, then the second one is Norman Lewis for vocabulary. So I'm the kind of person whose memory is extremely bad. Okay, like if I especially for vocabulary, I found it very challenging in the beginning, because I had this mental block that I can't memorize words, and I can't get over it. So what I did to combat that was that I would revise verbal every day for 5 minutes in the morning. If say that we've covered like 7 to 8 chapters in Norman Lewis so far, I would sit down and I would go through all of them just for 5 minutes every day. And the same thing, guys, applies for tables, for percentage conversions, and for all those specific nuances that you guys will need. Because if you guys don't have confidence in your ability to memorize things, then the only way to do it is through repetition. And apart from that, make sure capitalize on the Endeavor material, because they have very expansive material in terms of mocks, in terms of sectionals, in terms of editorials, and there's enough material out there. I've seen a lot of people get swayed, and they try to buy external books, which is nothing wrong. Of course, if you've covered all the material, then you can always go out. It's a personal choice. But if you haven't finished all the material that Endeavor is giving you, then it makes no sense for you to buy even more material, because you're just going to get overwhelmed and just get lost in that sea of all these questions. So try and take it step by step, and make sure that you're solving everything on a regular basis, and that should work out. When you start off with DI, right, initially, like it can come off to be as a really overwhelming section, because you can't really map out how these people are thinking and going about the entire question. So when you're starting off, don't put time limitations on yourself, is something I would say, because you need to understand the nuances, you need to understand the structure, and that takes time. So don't pressurize yourself to get ahead of yourself too early in your prep, and take that time to study and understand. And once you've gotten the hang of it, then start putting a time limit on yourself, 15 minutes for one set, or whatever it is that works for you. Like if you speak about profile building at this point of time, right, you have say 6 to 7 odd months, lesser than that, left for the exam. So the thing about profile is that your profile will only be valid like post you clearing the exam and then the interview coming into the picture. So assuming that you have up to 10 months for you to build your profile from here onwards, I would suggest that if you have WorkX, then you don't have to worry about it, like you have enough to speak about. If you don't have WorkX, you're a fresher, you can go for one of two things. You can intern if you can take the load. If you can't take the load, don't think about it, because then you will be compromising on your CAT prep as well. So if you can find a light internship which doesn't demand too much time and also gives you experience, try doing that on the side. If you think that would just confuse you more and add stresses to your life, the easiest way to go about for GDPI as well as personality development is reading. Read books about the domains that you want to get into. If you're trying to get into finance, pick up a starter book. If you're trying to get into HR, pick up a starter book. And I know that some of you may not have reading habits. Well, now is a good time to start it, because you can't run away from your reading habits. If you don't develop it now, you will have to develop it in B school. So you have to do it at some or the other point. So you can read, because it gives you a very, very expansive understanding of the field. And you also you also become so familiar with different kinds of cases, that when you sit in the interview and the interviewer asks you questions, you have so many things to bring to the table that, no one can question you on your personality or your understanding about the subject. They'll know that, okay, yeah, this person understands what he's talking about. He's read enough, even though he might not have work experience, might not have internship, but he's still gone out of his way to understand the nuances of the field. So that is also something that you can do. An input for freshers, guys, don't take your academics lightly, because if you do clear your exams and then you sit in the interview will ask you questions about your academics because you don't have work ex. So this was a problem that I faced in my BM XLRI Jamshedpur interview. They asked me a lot of statistics based questions, and throughout my interview prep, that was one part that for some reason I had avoided. I don't know, I think I thought that, oh, maybe they'll never ask it, or it might just not come up, or something like that. I just underestimated that, and that is exactly what came up in my interview, and I didn't clear the interview. So what I would say is that if you're a fresher, if you're in your final year or in your second year or in your third year, whatever it is, give enough amount of importance to your subjects to understand the basics of it and to understand a few variations of it, because if they can't question you on JobX, they will question you on your academics. So make sure that you don't ignore it completely. I understand that in the online medium it's much harder to pay attention, and it's easier to just switch off your camera and just dole around, and that's what a lot of my batchmates did as well. I understand the tendency to do that, but you need to know that if you're taking this opportunity seriously, you can't ignore your academics. So make sure that you're staying in touch with what's going on in college. Like I mentioned, like my mock scores used to be extremely bad, and I used to wonder if this is a true reflection of my potential. So initially, obviously, I faced that problem that I would avoid it. I didn't want to put myself in such an uncomfortable situation, but I would have to question my entire prep, all the time, all the hours that I spent. But over time, like all the mentors over here, they'll keep telling you that, guys, analyze, even if it doesn't, even if your scores aren't reflecting it, because that is true. Everything that your mentors tell you have a lot of, they come from a lot of experience. So listen to what they're saying, because your analysis will tell you how to improve. It's a stepping stone. It's not a hindrance. It's not a blockage. So make sure that you do that, and don't get afraid, guys. This is your prep time. This is not the real test. Until the real test comes, you can keep improving and revamping yourself as much as you want. So don't get limited now. This is the time to grow, not to get scared and stop. Applied for CAT, and the difference between the CAT and XAT deadline was about a month. It's like you give the CAT exam and there was still like a couple of days for you to apply for XAT. Okay, so what had happened was that I had applied for CAT, I had written CAT, and my CAT exam had gone so bad that right after coming out of the exam hall, I decided that I'm going to take a drop year. I'm not going to I don't think I'm going to make it to a B school this year. It was by luck that my father had told me that just apply to XAT and write the exam. So I applied for that, and when I went to write the exam, I was the mindset that I was in was extremely relaxed, because I wasn't putting myself in that pressure to achieve in that year. And I think that was the luck factor that played out for me, that 10% that someone mentioned earlier, that because I was relaxed, I was able to do extremely well in the exam, despite having been that given up mindset for the last 1 month before the real prep. Don't limit yourself. Apply to every place that you can, because once you have your options, then you can be as picky as you want and as arrogant as you want with your choices. But till you don't have those choices, you have to be humble and apply to wherever you can. Guys, it's not like everyone who does commerce is bad at math. Please do not generalize yourselves like that, and don't put that limitation in your mind, because even amongst the commerce pool, there are people who are good at math, people who are bad at verbal, people have their own strengths and weaknesses. So don't ever get swayed by your mass opinion about yourself. You're not limited by what other people are telling you. Look at your own strengths, look at your own performance, and look at your own comforts. If you personally feel that you are good at math, even if you're a commerce student, then there's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't mean that you're an outlier. Okay, it's absolutely normal to be good at quant while being a commerce student. It's also normal to be bad at quant while being a commerce student. It doesn't mean that only the people who are bad at quant do commerce. So just if you're bad at quant, then the only way to go about it is to practice and analyze and be consistent. That's it. These are the only three things that I would say. And if you're good at con, then there's nothing wrong, right? Just don't get carried away by your overconfidence, I would say. If you are, if you're not, then great. Keep hustling. But that's about it. Don't get limited by your own thinking and your own mental barriers. But even like additionally, like I am assuming there are a lot of other students from other backgrounds also here who are probably think they're in minority, so they might not be asking questions. But if you're out there and if you need to hear this, just because you're from arts or if you're from the sciences or if you're from law, for anything for that matter, do not feel limited. Okay, you can still do it. You just need to follow the same rule. Practice, revise, and be consistent. That's it. It's the same game for everyone, guys. All of you are in the same level playing field, and all of you have the same opportunity that's coming up in the next few months. The only difference is how you assess your own value and how you prepare in the coming months. So don't at all feel intimidated by the peers around you and by your competition, because at the end of the day, it's a game of how you win it yourself and how you better yourself. And because even someone who's extremely smart may do bad on the test day for any reason. So you can never assume that all the people who are better than me or everyone who's an engineer is going to do well. There's nothing of that sort. If you, irrespective of the field that you belong to, you have an equally good chance of doing well. See, guys, in my class right now, there are so many people who are ex-UPSC aspirants. So these are people who put like 3 years of their life trying to prep for UPSC. It didn't work out for them. Now they're graduates who have never had any work experience and they've come to do an MBA. Now think about their profiles, okay? These are people who have nothing to show for and who spent 3 years, and they were also in the same mindset that, damn, I took like 3 years of my profile. I have nothing to do now. How will I justify it? So the only way to, tackle a gap year question is to show that you've created some value for yourself. Like, for example, with my UPSC friends, what they said was that the kind of learnings that I learned by, being in that rigorous process of preparation and like learning so much about India and its and the world and all of that, along those lines, they said that they were able to create value for themselves and upskill themselves in that particular way. So similarly, for anyone taking a gap year, I would say that if you have even like say an internship that you took up or an academic project that you took up or even an interest, like say you started your own business, you started an Instagram business or anything of that sort, if you have anything to show that you created value for yourself and that 1 year did not go to waste, you didn't just sit there and relax, you actually did something. And just because it doesn't show in the form of a degree or a job letter or anything of that sort, it doesn't mean that that year was wasted for you. Then they're not going to grill you on that. There are people who are comedians who took years off and still made it to places like XLR, IMABC. So what do you say about people like that? So these are all the people who have once again created some value for themselves. So that's all I would say. When you join B School, right, you're going to be so impressed by the alumni communities, because all the people over here who are present in the speaker series, they've all gone to extremely good B schools, and all the alumni are so distinguished. Like these are CEOs, MDs at like global levels, and like we're talking about CHROs, CTOs and all of that. So the thing is that when you join a place like this, you will have the urge to put yourself in all the activities that are there. You'd like to be part of like 10 committees, you'd also want to do an internship, you'd also want to do a live project side by side and all of that. So but the thing is that of course you can't get carried away. Make sure, like Somjit mentioned, you're in touch with your seniors, you try and understand the environment that's there, and for sure, learn from your peer group. Peer learning is the biggest takeaway from any B School experience, because you're going to have such a diverse profile from every other single person in your class that all of you will have a lot to learn from each other. So stay humble. Don't be arrogant. Don't think that, okay, I'm lesser than them or I'm better than them or anything of that sort. Once you've made it there, it doesn't matter how you made it there. It doesn't matter what percentile you had, what percentage you had, what your academic background was, whatever you did till that point doesn't matter. What matters is how you capitalize on how you make those 2 years worth it for you. So keep that in mind, and again, don't feel limited is what I'll just keep saying. Like, there are no barriers, guys. If you decide to do it, you can do it, irrespective of where you're coming from. One thing that I like throughout my prep that I used to keep telling myself was that oh Shafali, like if you manage to solve this 1%, module and you do well at it, imagine how your brain is going to change. And that was a small milestone that I used to set for myself, that even if I finish this one module, I'm going to be a different person by the end of it. My ability is going to be different when I finish this. If I manage to memorize all these words in verbal, and then I sit for a Shashi Tharoor lecture on YouTube and I actually understand 5 words out of the entire lecture, it's still going to be a different experience from what would have happened if I hadn't prepared. So that was the smallest thing I used to keep telling myself every single day, that every single day I grow and every single day I become a better person. So guys, like, this is something you'll keep hearing a lot. It's all about an exponential growth. It's gonna be hard, little bit, but then you'll shoot up. Like, you won't even realize it, but you need to put in that consistent element. And if you manage, like, this is how I managed to keep myself motivated, by telling myself that even if for any reason I don't get into a B school, I've still managed to overcome so many of my aptitude barriers that I'm still better than who I was when I started off academically. So that was one thing that I kept telling myself. Another thing that I kept telling myself was that, B school life again is so different, that what lies on the other side of the spectrum is worth it, like I already spoke about before. And another thing was that I was always motivated by my peers. So I would always see them be extremely sincere. They would come to class like 1 hour before the class, finish all the tests even before the class had started, and I would be absolutely like awestruck, like, wow, what is this, sincerity, this dedication. And I would be inspired by them. Of course I would be intimidated also. Sometimes I would feel like, oh no, I can't do this, how do I compete with these people? But then it's about the smaller days. It's about every day telling yourself that no, what lies at the end of this is much better than what I can see today. So have faith in your process and keep pushing. Yeah, so one thing that I actually did meditate. I got into meditation in 2020 when the pandemic hit, because I suddenly had a lot of free time, and then I realized that, there's a lot of stuff that I need to work on in terms of my stress management, in terms of how panicky I get and my confidence and all of that. So meditation was a common answer that came across when I was trying to figure out these avenues. And I can say with confidence that that one practice, just sitting to meditate 10 minutes a day, has changed me as a person overall. Like, because now I'm much calmer. I can, comprehend things in a much better way, and you can get into, like, you can individually look into how it can change your life. I've only seen good benefits of meditation for anyone who's done it. In fact, if you look at any top CEOs, CTOs, or anyone who's even occupying any high position in their fields, you will see that this is a common practice that they participate in every single day. They meditate, they work out. These are things that they prioritize in their lifestyle, and it's something that it's good for everyone. Like, I have never heard anything wrong come out of something like this. So I would encourage you guys to go ahead with this. And another, like, speaking about healthy practices, I had a couple of peers who used to be extremely hard on themselves. Okay, so while studying, they would be like, oh, I'm never going to meet my friends, I'm never going to go out, I'm not going to smile, I'm not going to be happy at all. And they would tip that balance to the other end, like they would put themselves under so much pressure, and like they would make their own lives hell, to the point that they were being burnt out even more than they needed to. And because, like, they would the whole impact was so drastic on them that even if they had the potential to crack the exam, by the time the exam came, their will had gotten over. Like, they had no inspiration left, they had no motivation left. So guys, remember that it's absolutely okay to laugh while preparing. It's absolutely okay to meet your friends and have a good time. Keep that healthy balance. Whatever is balance for you, keep it. Okay, don't feel pressure to be under pressure. It's not that only if you're under pressure you'll make it. There's nothing of that sort. Learn your balance and live up to it. Additionally, I think a lot of people come to despise the exam as well. Like, by the time the exam comes, it's such a big headache. Like, it's no longer an opportunity to grow, and it's no longer an opportunity to, enter a different league. It becomes a barrier. You're like, oh no, I just have to clear this exam. Oh, stupid cat, yaar, kya aa gaya ye raste mein. So when you start despising the exam, that's when I think you can start being worried, because your attitude can make a very, very big difference to the way your state of mind when you sit to write the exam for those 2 hours, for those 3 hours. Because all these deep-seated psychological imbalances are something that, because people don't talk about it, we assume it's not there. But then it starts to reflect when the scorecard comes out, and we're like, oh, something went wrong. I can't pinpoint it what it is, but then when you look in hindsight, you realize that this is what was off balance. So if you if you believe that you can look forward and already understand what it is that you can do for yourself, then please do it now. Don't wait.